Hi, Craig Ridley here, and welcome back to my community of business entrepreneurs striving for business success. Today I want to talk to you about one of the most difficult things that you will eventually have to deal with if you have multiple owners in your business, whether that's other family members that work in the business with you or non-related business partners that have an equity stake in your business. There will come a point where one or more owners will put up their hand and say they are contributing more to the business success story than someone else. And they'll be unhappy with how they're being rewarded or recognised in comparison to those other slackers who just aren't pulling their weight. Once you hear the story I'm about to tell you, you'll hopefully see how important it is to address these types of issues really quickly so that they don't get a chance to derail your whole business strategy. Over the years, I've worked with heaps of business owners who eventually run into problems dealing with entitlement issues between different parts of the ownership group. And when these issues are dealt with properly, the problems go away and the business continues to be successful. Get it wrong, of course, and you're letting yourself in for a whole world of hurt. Often these are family-owned businesses, but not always. In fact, my story today starts with a business that's run by 4 friends, not 4 family members. So look, today I want to talk about how to deal with issues relating to the changing contributions of different members of your ownership group over time. All right, so let's get into it. I'm working with a client group at the moment who run a multi-venue restaurant and cafe business. The business has gone pretty well for these guys. They've had 3 profitable venues that are running, and they've got plans in place to add at least 2 new venues each year. Within the ownership group, there's 2 active shareholders who are responsible for the operations, for management, for staffing, for marketing, for finance. Basically, everything that needs to be done to keep the doors open and the money rolling in is done by these 2 guys. And then there's 2 silent partners who don't have any real active participation in the business on a day-to-day basis. So the question that's arisen in this business group is, what ownership involvement should the silent business partners have in any future venues? So you can see where these where these issues arise. In the early days, the business simply wouldn't have got off the ground without the investment capital that was contributed by the silent partners to fund equipment purchases, property leasing costs, legal fees, startup working capital. Essentially these guys had the money that allowed the business to get its start in life. But the profit returns that have been generated on that initial investment are now being driven by the entrepreneurial skills of the 2 active shareholders. Not to mention the sweat equity that's been contributed by these guys, as they absolutely work their butts off to build the customer base, manage staff, deal with suppliers, balance the books, all of those sort of things. So as the group now looks to invest in their 4th venue, the value that's attributed to the initial capital investment as it relates to the future business growth story is becoming less and less. And the value that can be attributed to the entrepreneurial skills and the effort that's required to drive the growth story forward, well, that's becoming more and more important, more and more critical to the business success story. To complicate the issue even further, all of the initial capital that was invested into this startup phase has actually been repaid over the years through profit dividends. So that's how successful this business group has been. So all of the investors now pretty much sit on equal equity terms. So my question to you is this: how would you manage the equity split on the next venue investment if this was your business? Would you argue that the silent business partners have already got the return on investment that they deserve and what they were looking for, so that they shouldn't be given any further equity stake in the next ventures, the next business operations that we start up? Or do you honour the fact that the opportunity to actually invest into Venue 4 wouldn't have been possible without that initial capital investment into Venues 1 and 2? So, perhaps the silent shareholders deserve at least a small equity share in the new venture. Would you take the hard-nosed commercial stance, or would you shy away from the difficult conversations that may be required and just let things run along the way they always have? What if you're happy to maintain the status quo and not upset anyone, but your other active business partner is really passionate about cutting the silent partners out completely? In his words, he might say that all they do is sit on their backside and count the money all day. What are they doing to contribute to the business operations? To add to the complexity, just to throw everything at you today, what if in fact that this wasn't a business owned by four mates? What if this is actually a family-owned business and the silent partners were your mum and dad? Well, what does that do to your willingness to have difficult conversations with your business partners and to push for that commercial outcome? These are real-world problems that are faced by business owners around the world every day, and they're not easy ones to resolve. So let me ask the question one more time. What would you do if you were faced with this situation in your business life? There's no right or wrong answer to the question. Your business model and your ownership structure is different to mine, and it's different to others. What's important though is that you keep talking to your partners about all the difficult issues that are going on in the business, and you develop a plan that works for you and works for everyone else around you. So let me just summarize what I'm trying to cover off on today. The importance of each owner in the business may well change over time as the business grows. That's probably inevitable. The initial investors are absolutely critical in the startup phase, because without their money you often won't have a business in the first place. And I think you have to always value these people. But the owners who are actively involved in the day-to-day business operations, well, they become more critical to the business growth story than the initial investors once that business reaches some level of maturity. And they also need to be recognised and rewarded for the effort they're putting in. It's these changing roles within the ownership group over time that can create enormous pressures within the equity group. And they can often lead to massive arguments and even legal disputes, as one owner feels that they're doing more than the other and they're not getting fully rewarded for their contribution. The pressures are even higher when the different ownership groups are represented by different generations of the same family. Perhaps where mum and dad have built the business up to what it is today, and the next generation is using that base to scale the business and create even greater wealth. With the kids perhaps now putting in a higher level of physical effort and perhaps applying some more university-trained management skills and frameworks in running the business. And maybe the parents are starting to ease back on their personal involvement inside the business. It's really easy for younger generations to lose sight of the value that was contributed by the parents over many, many years. And it's just as easy for the older generation to think that the kids are taking way too many risks with their assets and their livelihood, and perhaps the older generation thinks that the kids aren't working as hard as they should be because they're not working as hard with their hands as the parents did in the traditional days, versus using their skills and their heads, their acumen, their entrepreneurial skills to run the business. And we have seen plenty of businesses where the older generations just don't value that reduction in physical effort, I guess, that we talk about. Whether it's a family group or whether it's a privately held business with non-family members, because it's just so important that the ownership group maintain strong communication channels between themselves. And all of these hard issues are put on the table and resolved regularly, rather than letting these problems fester until they become almost impossible to resolve without lawyers getting involved, when no one wins in that situation, except perhaps the lawyers, of course. So to finish my original story about the four guys running the restaurant and cafe business, thankfully they've always been willing and able to have the difficult conversations with each other, so this one was reasonably easy to resolve. For now, they've agreed to recognise the extra contribution that's made by the operational owners by paying them much higher salaries than they're getting at the moment. Going forward, they've also accepted that the silent partners should probably have lower equity shares in future venues as they get opened up, unless significant capital is going to be required to be invested in the new venture. So clearly if they put that money in, they'd be entitled to a greater equity share. So they've agreed to an equity matrix that sets out different ownership percentages based on what the financial and operational contributions are going to be required from each owner in each of those new venues. Now, that solution won't work for everyone, but it has meant that these guys will remain friends as well as business partners. And the business group continues to make profits and continues to scale, so it's a great result all round. So look, that's all. I hope this information has been useful to you and you can use it in your business and your team and perhaps your family situation. But as I always say, information is useless unless you act on it. So please make a commitment to yourself right now. Think about what we've just covered and develop a strategy for your ownership group or your family that they can follow when it comes time to deal with people having different contribution levels to the business success story, because look, this time will come, you will have this conversation. Now, if you were a member of your business coaching club, I'd direct you to the specific coaching module that our members can access on how to professionalise a family-owned or a privately owned business. But as a non-member, you're just going to have to go it alone, I'm afraid, unless, of course, you make the obvious decision and come and join us at your business coaching club. Look, our mission here is to give you access to the very best resources and advice that are available to you so that you can improve your profit, so you can grow and scale your business, so that you can generate wealth from your business career, and so that you can finally achieve the lifestyle balance that you've been looking for ever since you've started your business journey. They're the goals that we have for you, and our mission is to provide it to you. Trust me, you are not going to find a better value for money business coaching resource anywhere else today, either online or offline. Please check out the membership options that we've listed at yourbusinesscoachingclub.com, and remember to at least jump on our list by downloading our free business success blueprints. You'll see the links for our membership options below this video and in the show notes. Thanks for watching and listening to this podcast. Remember to subscribe so that we can stay in touch, and please share so we can spread the word. Again, my name is Craig Ridley. I'm the founder and head coach of Your Business Coaching Club, and I really do look forward to seeing you in the next podcast or in the members clubhouse when you're ready. Cheers for now, guys. Goodbye.